What's up guys, it's Super here. Today we're going to be going through the 3 most impactful cards in my opinion from each faction, and like whether or not I would recommend you craft them now, seeing as there's like a new patch coming out. So we're going to start off from neutral, and it'll be no surprise to you guys that the first card we're going to go through today is the Siri Nova. Here she is. Quite a cool premium. I don't know if you guys noticed, but if you pay real close attention to the background, not Siri herself or the rocks, if you pay attention to a background, you'll notice it changing location. So let's try it. There you go, I don't know if you saw that. There you go, you saw like a bit of shrubbery, some trees there. Not quite sure what that was. Then you see like the tower there, the tower from the end of The Witcher 3. Let's try it one more time. So I think there's a mountain. That was definitely a cave or something. There was a mountain. Then there was, I think, Novigrad. So I don't know if you guys pay attention to that, but I don't know. I thought that was kind of cool. That little attention to detail that CD Projekt Red put in there. But anyway, let's get into this card. So this card, my god, this card. Has it been a little bit of a pain this patch? So when they announced this card, obviously people were like a 25-point play. That's a great finisher. But only having 2 copies of each bronze, is that going to be impactful or not? And the short answer is, for most decks, no. This is not going to be, this was not a big impact, because most decks do not have like real driving force as bronzes. Like obviously Nilfgaard Spies could never run this card because they really rely on those 3 enforcers, those 3 brigades to get value over time. Whereas most decks can actually deal with squeezing this in pretty easily. So it's pretty simple, you know, you can win round 1, force them out round 2, and then play this card as round 3, and you know, that's pretty much a wrap, to be honest with you. So, what are my opinions on the changes come to this card? So it's been leaked, or I don't know if it's been officially announced, but this card is, instead of strengthening to 25, it is now going to be strengthening to 22. So it's obviously signifying a nerf of 3 points. So this change, in my opinion, I don't think it's going to be changing too much, because honestly, I think if it was being strengthened to 20 instead of 22, I reckon it could change a bit, because quite a few cards are able to generate 20 points. However, 22 points, I think that's still maybe a bit over, because think about it. What card can really match 23 points to win? Not many can do that. A few cards can do 20, but not many, alright? And also, it is so important to think about, this card is an instant Igni target right now, with it being able to strengthen to 25, is instant. Now this is only strengthening to 22, Igni does not beat this card, it is just a 5-point play. So you've actually got to think about that. Is this a better nerf, or is this worse? You really got to think about that, right? But in terms of what I recommend you guys to craft it, yes, I would recommend you to craft it, because as I just said, it's not too big of a change anyway. And honestly, it might make the card even better, because obviously it's not even susceptible to Igni anymore. Right, so that's the first card we're going to be going through today. And I've got some statistics on this card. 27% of all decks have been running this card. Think about that. That is a quarter of all the decks in Gwent have been running this card. The most significant decks, factions, are Scoia'tael, 24% of Scoia'tael decks been running this, 25% of monsters, and 25% of Skellige as well. So think about that, it's ridiculous proportions. But anyway, moving on to the next neutral card, which is going to be Aguara True Form. Let me see if I can find it. It'll be down here. Come on, Aguara, where are you? There we go. Sorry about that. Alright, so Aguara True Form. Now this is a card that is fairly interesting. Obviously its art is amazing. I really do like the art of this. And its ability, create a bronze or silver spell. Now, I'm pretty sure this is faction specific. For example, if you're playing Skellige, you have the opportunity to pull a Restore. And if, say, you're a Nilfgaard, you wouldn't be able to pull that Restore, because it is not a Nilfgaard card. So you can already see from that little example how crazy this card has like the capacity to be. Imagine if you could get 2 Restores on 2 Beastmasters. That's 40 points. That is 40 points with Resurrects, Round 3, you have 2 priestesses. You pull out the 8 points. They're both the 8-point Beastmasters. That's 40-point play. Ridiculous. Now, on the other hand, this card does have the capacity to be bricked, because obviously you could pull a card that is not good in your current situation, or is even represents negative points. So it is kind of a risk reward, but honestly, it gives you the option of 3 cards, and more than likely that one of those cards is going to be good for you in that scenario. This card is actually used in 37%, just over 37% of all Skellige decks, and is actually used in 27.5% of all Scoia'tael decks. So you can see it's very, very commonly used, and if you do not have this card, I recommend you craft it right now, because it is a neutral card. And as I'll say with all these neutral cards, you can put them in any deck really. Apart from Surinova, you know, you kind of have to adjust your deck a little bit for that. But stuff like this, you can put it in your deck and it will pretty much always do well. And I do not think it's having any nerfs to it, so it's always going to be good. Right, the final card. Now, these two really were the obvious ones for me. And the last one, I kind of struggle with. So I went on the statistics and I kind of looked through which ones have been most used, because I'm using the statistics and a mixture of my own opinion. And now I decided to go with actually Trial of the Grasses. Trial of the Grasses. I don't even have this card yet. But the fact that Alchemy Nilfgaard has been knocking around so much is a very widely used deck. And it's basically a 20-point play, I believe, this card, if you just play it. It's like a 20-point play without... It's almost as good as a Surinova without changing your entire deck. So it's pretty good. And although it's only used in 4 to 5% of all decks currently in Gwent, you've still got to give it some commendment, because it's come into the game and it's been throwing around 20-point plays here and there, and it's pretty much the third best neutral card in my opinion that has been in this patch. Well, I recommend you craft it. Honestly, it really depends on if you like Nilfgaard. If you like Nilfgaard, then yes, because chances are you either play or are planning on playing Witcher Alchemy deck. So yeah, I'd recommend it in that scenario. But if you never go near Nilfgaard, then I wouldn't really touch it, because honestly, using it on like golds, like, it's not too great, because obviously the higher the base power, save as the Geralt, I think that's a 15-point play already. That's only a 10-point play of Trial of the Grasses. So yeah, and obviously you can use it for other reasons, just to get rid of a 10-point card. You know, it's kind of versatile. But yeah, as I said, if you run Nilfgaard, I would recommend picking this card up. Alright, next we're going to be moving on to monsters. So the first gold card that I have written on my monsters list is actually Bruess Ritual, which is right here. So this card is run in 21% of all monsters decks, primarily Dagon and Arrakis Queen, because obviously it has a potential to bring back 2 Neckers. Now, you've got to think about this, because although Consume does utilise the graveyard with just like Slizards, you never really get those Neckers out of your graveyard, you just banish them to pull another one from your deck. So although these are only base point Neckers with 4 strength, you know, you got to give it some credit, because it's actually pulling those out of the graveyard and putting them back into play, which gives you essentially 2 extra Neckers. So, and I think it goes without saying that the other Crones are pretty good as well. You know, like the Wispess incantation, being able to pull a Mandrake to get rid of, you know, a Vran Warrior, completely banish it from the game, to completely banish a Necker. It's pretty powerful. So these 3 cards here, I've got to say, they all kind of go hand in hand in how good they are, but Bruess has been run the most, I believe, so therefore this is the number 1 card on my monsters list. And would I recommend you get it? Yes, of course I recommend you get this card, because it is not getting any sort of nerfs, I do not believe. And, you know, Consume doesn't really seem to be getting hit too hard either. So yeah, I'll go for it if you like monsters, honestly. Alright, next card is no surprise really. It's been great in this game for so long, and it is Woodland Spirit. So this card is still in 35.25% of all monster decks. 35%. Jesus, that is a lot. And it is in 6.6% is in 67% of all Dagon decks, sorry. So this card is in 67% of all Dagon decks. It's still going so hard. It's still going so hard. Right, and although Foggers took a little bit of a nerf, due to the fact they can't come back from the graveyard, it's still an exceptional card, and you should definitely craft it because there's no nerfs coming to this card, and it's just a staple monsters card. So if you do not have this by now, what are you doing? Get this card. Alright, finally, this is really representing the last archetype. So this kind of represents Dagon, the Wooden Spirit does, and this kind of represents Consume. So here we're going to go for the Wild Hunt. So Caranthea. This is running 21% of all monsters decks, but more importantly 86% of all Eredin decks. Pretty much symbolizing that this card is a must in Eredin decks. Its ability is fairly simple. You know, it gives you an extra frost and allows you to like develop more rows on your opponent's side to do damage to Frosting, which is great. You know, a little bit of movement, can't go too wrong with that. You can move Ran Warriors, you can move Neckers so they're not going to get eaten, and then apply Frost to it, doing overtime damage. Pretty good, pretty simple. Would I recommend you get this card? Of course, but as I've said, it really depends on what factions you enjoy playing, and if Monsters is for you, then yes, get this card. Alright, next up, we have Nilfgaard. So, this one is not that interesting. There are no new cards really in my top 3 here. They're all pretty simple cards that you honestly probably would be able to guess. So the first one is Kahir, or Kahir. Now, this card was already good. You know, being able to play a leader's ability from Nilfgaard, you know, that was already good. However, now, with the addition to it resurrecting a leader, which is its new ability, not just like copying its ability, but resurrecting a leader, what people are starting to do is Mandrake their leader to give it 6 extra strength, then resurrect it with Kahir, which, like, say if that's a Jan Calvate, that's already a 12-point play, I believe, on top of whatever you pull. So that is already crazy good. So this card is used in 39.27% of all Nilfgaard decks. So if you like Nilfgaard, or if you're thinking about going into Nilfgaard, you should already have this card. I mean, you get this card given already, so you should be playing this card. Like, if you've got no other options, play this card. Alright, now we have Rain Farm. Now, you do not start with this card, unlike here. So you will have to craft it, but you should craft this card. It's a staple Nilfgaard card. It has been for a very long time. Nilfgaard Spies is not Nilfgaard Spies without this card. And it is still running 21.46% of all Nilfgaard decks. Full stop, not just Spies. So honestly, you really should be getting this card. Think about the potential. Round 3, short round 3, you could play this card. You pull a Wahim from it. That signifies incredible value. Incredible value. And honestly, it allows Nilfgaard Spies to thrive not only in the long round with the Enforcers and Brigades, but in a short round by playing this card into a Wahim. So if you do not have this card, pick it up, because you're going to probably want it at some point. The last card, also a card that's been in the game for as long as I can remember, Vilgeforce. Now this card is used in 47.5% of all Nilfgaard decks. 30% Amir and 45% Jan Calvate. So this card, obviously it's a little bit of art, it's a little bit of luck. I mean, it's a little bit of thinning your deck, because obviously you want to be pulling a card that can really do good for you. The Destroy Ally ability has never really been an issue, because you can run Vicar Medics, Vicar Novices, which are all very, very low strength units to sacrifice. So if you sacrifice these, you can easily pull a very good card. So it's pretty simple, but it's very, very good, because it can really clutch. It really clutch you out a game and draw another card. And you know, that ability to mill yourself is very good when you're looking for the cards that you really, really need. So if you do not have it, pick it up. Honestly, I don't even think it's receiving any nerfs. So yeah, you should really get this. And that'll be it for Nilfgaard. Next, we have Northern Realms. So this is another boring one. You have the staple Northern Realm cards coming in at the top 3, in my opinion. You have Dijkstra, right? Not only is he a fairly interesting character in the Witcher series, but his card is pretty good. So, this card is running 47% of all Northern Realm decks. 47% of all decks. right? And then it's not just one leader, 32% Hensel, almost 30